Hello everyone and welcome to day 2 of the St. Louis Rapid event. After day 1, here are the standings. I forgot to show them in my previous video, so let's just check that out for a moment. After day 1, Aronyan in first place with all 3 wins, in sole lead with 6 points. Then with 4 points Magnus Carlsen and Ding Liren. With 3 points we have Fabiano, Caruana, Maxim Vashiolagrov and Shahriar Mamedyarov. With 2 points Yangyi, Sergei Karakin and Richard Rapport. And in last place with 1 point Leinier Dominguez. So these are the standings after round 1. And on day 2, for the first game, we have Fabiano Caruana, former World Chess Championship challenger, against Magnus Carlsen, who is the world champion. And here, well, an interesting bit of statistics. You might be interested in it. Their all-time record in classical chess, okay, it's 10-5 with 33 draws. We know that. But we are interested in their rapid score, as this is a rapid game. So it's 17-8 with 4 draws. So although Carlsen is has a plus score in classical chess, he has an even higher plus score in rapid chess. And also it's very interesting, as all of the 12 games in their 2018 World Chess Championship match were drawn. Carlsen defeated Caruana basically in rapid chess. So it's always interesting when the two of them meet in a rapid event. So without further ado, well, just one more thing. Some of you have been asking me why, how come you've got unsubscribed from the channel. I think it's basically a new YouTube algorithm. Sometimes I will mention it. If you don't comment on videos, YouTube will think you're an inactive subscriber and then they will unsubscribe you. But you can just check, for example, every first of the month if YouTube did this, and if it did, you are welcome to subscribe back. So let's check out the game. Fabiano with the white pieces opens with e4. With c5 by Carlsen. Again, everyone was interested, will we see another line of the Sveshnikov, another super engine line, so to say. We have knight to f3, knight to c6, and now bishop to b5. Caruana goes for the Nezhmetdinov-Rossolimo variation. We have e6 by Carlsen, and now bishop captures on c6. B captures and d3. With knight to e7, same as Carlsen played against Giri in Zagreb in the Grand Chess Tour. We've covered that game, it was very nice. But in that game, Giri went immediately for h4. But here, Caruana finds sort of an improvement to the position, b3 first. So waiting to see what Carlsen will play with knight to g6 now, and only now that Carlsen put the knight on g6, now Caruana goes for h4, preparing h5 to kick away the knight from g6. With h5 by Carlsen, not allowing it, and there is only one game in the database where bishop to b2 was played, but here Fabi plays e5, and it is now already as of move 8 in the Sicilian that we have a completely new game, which is just crazy. So Carlsen waits no longer, he challenges the center with f6. Fabi continues knight bd2, saying that I don't mind if you capture the pawn, because if he captures the pawn, then the idea is a knight to c4, just going after that pawn with both knights, and after d6 defending queen e2. And this is just a hard position to play for black if you're not, if you don't know the lines by heart. For example, if you play something like bishop e7, already queen e4 is deadly, attacking the knight and the c6 pawn. So here Carlsen doesn't bother himself with the pawn. Of course, he knows Fabi is most likely more prepared in this line, as he played e5, the new line, with d6, again challenging the center, and now Fabi captures. E captures on d6, and now not capturing. Magnus has plans of recapturing with the queen, but first e5. With bishop to b2, and now we have bishop to g4. As the pawn is already on h4, you don't have to worry about h3, so that bishop is very nice there. We have queen to e2, again with ideas of going queen to e4, with this, well, not that, but with this double attack. So Carlsen now captures with the queen. If queen e4 comes already, for example, if queen e4, the c6 pawn is already protected, Carlsen can just play king f7, the knight is defended, all is very nice. So after queen captures on d6, Fabi plays g3, takes away the f4 square from Carlsen's knight. Bishop to e7, Carlsen continues development, and now Fabi castles queenside. We have knight to f8, now Magnus wants to get the knight over to e6, from where it can go over to, well, not f4, but it can come to d4, which is a very nice square. We have rook d to e1, a nicer square for the rook, as Magnus' king is still in the center, and knight to e6. With queen to e4 now, with ideas of going queen to g6 check, maybe not now, but it is a threat. And here Carlsen played queen to d5. It seems like a very normal move. Of course, if Fabi captures, then Magnus gets to fix his pawn structure, which of course would be excellent for him. But it doesn't work. Here, Magnus falls in Fabi's preparation, and Fabi just executes a deadly idea. But feel free to pause the video here and try to find this deadly idea. While I give you a couple of seconds, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent executioner of deadly ideas. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, knight captures on e5. And here the problem is next. If you decide to capture the piece with f captures on e5, then Fabi's idea was f3, just trapping the bishop there. For example, after, let's say, queen captures here, you will get the d captures, and now the bishop has no escape square, as this square is covered by the pawn. So we will have to capture, and then after knight captures, yes, the material on the board is equal, but Fabi has 3 pawn islands, and his pawn structure is, well, much better, whereas Carlsen has 4 pawn islands, and this pawn will, well, come off the board very soon, and all the other pawns are very weak, so it would be... it would be very hard for Magnus to play this. On the other hand, after f captures on e5, if the knight is captured, queen g6 seems like a good idea, but it's not. For example, after queen g6 check, king d7, and now f3, it doesn't work because you can create an escape route for the bishop. You can go knight f8, attack the queen, and make an escape route for your bishop. And now if queen captures on g7, rook h7, now queen captures on e5, bishop captures on f3, and here black comes up top. We have knight captures on f3, queen captures on f3, and the rook nicely helps out with the defense of the bishop here. Everything is fine for black. Very nice preparation by Fabi. Magnus decides, of course, not to capture it. He plays queen captures on e4. We have d captures on e4, and now f captures on e5. And now Fabi continues with his plan. We have f3. Magnus goes knight to d4, there's no saving the bishop, but now he creates an escape route for the bishop, so Fabi has to react to this. We have f captures on g4, h captures on g4, and now knight to c4. Fabi just goes after the weak pawns now, and here it's already very, very hard for Magnus to defend. For example, if bishop f6 defending, knight e3 will pick up the g4 pawn, so also not something you want to do. On the other hand, if you try knight here, attacking the rook on e1, just rook e to f1, and whatever black plays, let's say castles, you can always go just knight e3, and you're still going to capture the g4 pawn, start pushing the pawns on the king's side. So here Magnus decides we're not going to defend anything, here we just castle. And now, okay, now it's not all that safe to capture. If you capture on e5 now, bishop d6 attacks the knight. When you move it now, Magnus starts picking up the kingside pawns. So here Fabi says, okay, there's no rush. After Carlsen castled, we have king to b1. And now comes rook to f2. Magnus grabs activity with his rook, preparing to develop the other rook, maybe to f8. We have knight captures on e5. Finally, Fabi goes after the pawn, ready to capture on g4. And now knight captures on c2. Fabi captures on g4, and now rook to g2, getting the rook out of the way. Rook e to g1, Fabi wants to get rid of Carlsen's very active rook. Rook back to e2, and here Fabi starts pushing with h5. And here it's a very strange moment where Magnus decided not to capture on e4, but it seems to be a free pawn, because after rook captures, if the king captures, well, you capture the knight here. For example, king captures here, rook captures here. And now, whatever you play, h6, bishop to f6, and black defends, and he grabbed his pawn back. For example, if you capture here, king captures, and you are still worse, but you are still in the game. Here, Carlsen played c4. He wants to play c3 and create some complications on the queen side. Fabi continues with h6, and now you have to decide what to do. Here, Magnus could have gone for knight to a3 check, and it's a really tough line, especially for a rapid game, because after bishop captures and bishop captures, you get h7 check, king to h8, and now knight to e5. And this is, when you see this, you don't want to play this. Knight g6 already threatens checkmate. You have to play g6 to unwind. For example, g6 knight captures king g7, and now h8 queen. You have to now give up material. Rook captures, knight captures, and c3 does look scary, but white can just offer back a material, and the white will come on top. For example, rook b2 check, king to a1, now rook goes back to e2, and now you go rook c to f1, preparing knight to f7 to get your knight back into the game. And if c2, it's not a problem, knight f7, And once black wins material, you will play rook captures, bishop captures, rook captures, king captures, and you get this endgame where white is winning as he is up material. You can capture on c6, black will capture here. You have 3 pawns, black has only 1, so this is a winning endgame. But you don't have to calculate all this way. As long as you see this 95 idea with knight g6 threatens mate, you will decide not to go for this. So Magnus plays c3, attacks the bishop, and first Fabi goes h7 check. So the idea is similar. We have king to f7 now. King h8 runs into the same 95 idea. So king to f7, and now Fabi doesn't go for h8 queen. It would be, well, it wouldn't be all that great as the bishop here is under attack. So instead, first rook to f1 by Fabi, with bishop to f6 blocking, and now still not bishop captures on c3. For some reason, Fabi doesn't enjoy complications here. With knight to a3 check, maybe black could get some perpetual ideas, who knows. So just bishop to c1. That pawn is basically now blocking this dark square bishop, so Fabi prefers this. Here we have knight to b4 by Magnus, and now Magnus of course is hoping for h8 queen. Then you of course see how Magnus wins this. You don't even have to pause the video. c2 is checkmate, as the knight covers the pawn and the bishop slices over all the way to a1. So Fabi of course will not play this. He did not become a World Chess Championship challenger by pushing pawns for no reason. We have e5, just blocking the dark square bishop, and this is now beautiful. You cannot move the bishop as it's pinned, so whenever Fabi wants, he can just capture it. And here Carlsen can go for c2 check, but it's still not doing anything. For example, king a1, there's no continuation to the attack. If you try rook captures on e5, trying to free the dark square bishop, white will just capture, but you still can't capture. The bishop is pinned. King e6, now white can capture here. Rook captures on f6, and after the bishop is eliminated, just h8 queen, and that's it. Black has no counterplay. So after e5, we have rook captures on a2. Again, now Magnus hoping for h8 queen. Now it's the same idea. You no longer need the bishop. c2 is again mate. The knight defends the pawn and the rook. So after this rook captures on a2, Fabi has to defend c2. So knight e3, only move that defends c2, Fabi plays it. And now we have rook to h8. Magnus now has to defend the queening square. Finally, e captures on f6, and now g5, trying to block all the pawns. The king now blocks this pawn, the rook blocks this pawn, but it's a very passive position if you have to use your king and rook to block pawns. We have rook to d1 by Fabi, offering the c2 check, but it doesn't bring Magnus much. For example, if c2 check, knight captures on c2, you will get rook captures on c2, and now bishop captures on g5. And after you move the rook, let's say rook f2, just rook d7 check, you will go king e6, rook e7 check, king to f5, and now rook g7, and there is no defense against rook g8, where you will either win a rook or win a queen, or get a queen into the game. So after rook d1, we have a5 by Magnus. He has to create more complications. That is his only option. We have rook to d4. Now you can't continue pushing because of rook captures knight, but that's not the only problem. Here Magnus played c2 check. We have knight captures on c2 and rook captures on c2. And now, of course, Fabi's idea is pretty clear. He plays rook captures knight, which is the defender of the rook. So if Magnus captures, he loses the rook here. Not a4, obviously. Magnus played rook captures on c1 check. We have king captures on c1, and now a captures on b4. So the material is a bit, almost the same. Fabi up only one pawn, but Fabi plays the absolute best move. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find the absolute best move in this position if you want to be an excellent player of endgames. While I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent player of endgames. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, rook to h6. You do have to defend the f6 pawn if you want to win the game. The problem is if you try rook f1, you no longer defend the h7 pawn. And by playing rook to h6, the beauty is that now this pawn guards, this pawn guards this square, this pawn guards this square, and rook guards this square. So basically you have a wall created against the black king, so the black king cannot approach the position at all. So black is hopeless here. You cannot move the king, you cannot move the rook. If you move the rook, h8, just pushing the pawn wins. And black will just have to wait for Fabi to bring his king into the game, gobble up all the pawns, push the b pawn. Fabi wins this game playing whatever. So yeah, really an amazing game, and I think yeah, maybe the score I've shown you regarding the rapid chess was wrong. Yeah, I think as I took it today, it already included today's game. So yeah, up until this is the score including this game, 17-8. Before this game, it was 16-8. So yeah, sorry about that. I just realized that as I finished recording this game. But yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Mark Sutherland, Jesse Bernstrom, and Leoson Hawaii for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check all my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing, well, everything we are continuing. The Capablanca saga, checking up on your suggestions, and continuing this short coverage of the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz event. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day while I'm continuing enjoying my vacation. See you soon.